If you've ever run ads or hired an agency and just gotten a flood of bad leads like tire kickers, people who don't answer their phone or don't schedule appointments, it's almost never bad luck. It's actually a setting that you can control. Most campaigns that you run silently train the algorithm to go and find more of the wrong people because of the information you feed the platform. And so today we're going to break down a few different strategies that you can use when running ads to ultimately make sure that the platform goes out and brings you more of the right people. Because yes, it is controllable. You just have to have the education and know-how to control it yourself. So if you're new to the channel, welcome in. All we do is talk about how to scale health and wellness clinics with digital and profitable paid advertising. And when you're on our channel, we don't make any earnings claims. We don't believe that you're gonna watch this one video and then be the best advertiser on planet Earth and go and make a ton of money. We do not believe that. But what we do believe very deeply is that if you take the lessons that we share with you here today, you will have a higher probability of making your advertising more successful. Because we take all the lessons that we've accumulated in our own businesses and in our clients' businesses after years of running ads for clinics, and we share them with you. And our hope is that you absorb them. So if you're on the channel, make sure you're an action taker, because at the end of the day, information is shit and execution is the game. So without further ado, let's begin. So the question we're gonna answer today very deeply is, how do we get the platform to go out and find us better leads? So the first thing is we have to understand as advertisers that what we give the platform in terms of data will dictate the outcomes that we get in the future. Now, let me tell you what I mean. The algorithm is always doing exactly what we want it to do, okay? So the algo is right. Now, here's what I mean by that. When you run a campaign, you will have different objectives that you can choose, okay? And those objectives might be view content, follow the profile, so like a follow objective. You might have a lead objective. You might have a schedule objective. Possibly even if you're doing webinars, complete registration. Okay, those are all different objectives that you can set your ad campaign to. Now, here's where it gets interesting. No matter what objective you choose, if you don't fire the right type of person, what happens is all of these will not serve you. So for example, if you're running a campaign, your goal is to get leads, but you have not set up the data properly, as we'll show, then no matter what, you might get lead after lead after lead after lead, but they're the wrong leads. So when we choose an event, we want to be conscious that, let's say we're going with a lead event. I'm going to use that as an example because it's the most common, okay? So when we have a lead event, that means that when somebody becomes a lead, okay, so what happens is they see the ad, then they go to a page, okay? This is typically where they give us their contact info. So their first name, last name, you know, the phone number, email, okay, all that kind of stuff happens on this page. And then they go to a final kind of like confirmation page. So basically, once they've given us their information, then they'll go to a confirmation page. Now, on the confirmation page is where this person's data, this lead's data, will then fire back to the ad. Okay, that's in the form of a pixel. And so what's happening for you is that when you get a lead for your business, the platform recognizes and looks at that lead and then says, okay, this business received this lead and this lead as this type of person. So then what the platform does is it goes out and tries to find more of that type of person. But the question for you is, what happens if that's a bad person? What happens if the lead is super unqualified and then now the platform learns on an unqualified lead? Well, what does that mean for you? Because if the pixel learns on unqualified leads, you will just get a higher volume of unqualified leads. And that's why the pixel data is so important for you to protect. Because once you've muddied the waters with the pixel data, who knows what you're gonna get in your funnel, okay? So this is the process on how the data, again, is fed back to the platform, all right? Now, let's talk about how we can control the data. So step 2 is control data. So here's what we do. So if we, as a goal for a business, want to get more of the right people in our funnel, then we can add strategic friction to help the platform optimize in our favor. So here's what that looks like. So we would have an ad, and then we would take them to a page where they give us their contact info. Okay, we talked about that last time, first name, last name, so on and so forth, okay? But what if instead of right away getting the contact info, what if on the page we took them to a short application, okay? And on the application, we asked them anywhere from 1 to 3 questions that decide if they're a good fit for our business. Now, they don't need to be like very personal questions, like you don't need to get in the weeds with people, but let me give you an example. Like, let's say you have a local business. Okay, oops, if I could spell here, local business. Okay, maybe your first question is, do you live in Chicago? Okay. Now that would mean that, again, in this example, you have a business in Chicago. So, but the first question you may ask is, do you live in Chicago? And you may be more specific. Do you live in downtown Chicago, if that's where your business is located, okay? Now, why would we ask that question? Because what happens when you run local ads in this example is that people will visit different cities, okay? And then when people visit different cities, they opt into ads that are ongoing in that city, but it's not going to provide a lot of value to you as the business owner because that patient will be visiting your city and then they will be flying out on Monday morning and you'll never be able to service them long term, okay? So what if we add a question that just says, do you live in Chicago or downtown Chicago? And if they say yes to that, okay, then we would allow their data to go back to the platform, okay? So what we're doing is we're basically, anyone that says no, they would still be able to opt in, but we're not going to feed their data back to the platform because we want, in this case, we want the platform to optimize for local people in downtown Chicago. So if we continue to get more leads that are downtown Chicago, the platform is going to continue to serve us people who live in that area instead of those that are just visiting. Now, I want to give you a few more examples as far as great questions that you can consider asking in your applications. First is like avatar location. That's always a good one, okay? The right avatar if you're doing a virtual offer or the right location if you're doing local offer, all right? The second could be something related to like the symptoms. Okay, so like what's the person struggling with? What are you hoping we can help you with? That kind of stuff. Now, I will put a little disclaimer in here that if you're using any sort of symptoms in your forms, you do want to make sure that you are fully HIPAA compliant and that you're treating patient data with respect and privacy. Because again, you will be collecting, if you decide to go the symptom route, you will be collecting patient data. And as a disclaimer, you need to make sure you track and store that stuff appropriately, okay? But if you do so, you can ask about symptoms. You can understand like what the person is struggling with, okay? You could ask about the duration. And then you could also ask about, something related to motivation. Now you got to be careful with the motivation one because the motivation ones are typically a little bit more like salesy, if you will. So they can push people away from pages. So if you use motivation type ones, then you want to make sure you word them accordingly, okay? So you have an avatar identifier, okay? So do you live in the city, okay? Or are you this type of person, if it's a virtual offer? You have symptoms, okay? Out of these things listed here, what are you struggling with the most? That helps people identify and understand that you're going to be helping them with specific things, okay? Duration, which is like how long have you had said challenges and been dealing with this kind of stuff? And then perceived motivation / urgency in terms of investment. Like if, hey, we were to show you something that you really felt was a good fit for you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to invest in yourself in order to overcome this problem? That would be some level of motivation urgency one. But again, just as a note on the motivation one, you do want to be careful in that just because, again, it can come off as salesy if you position it incorrectly. And so here's how this all pieces together, okay? You basically will, now your system looks like this. You have an ad, okay? And then you basically will take people to the application, which is what we just got done discussing in terms of questions. And by the way, on the application, you're still gonna answer, at the very end, you'll still ask for basic contact info. So like the application includes the contact information plus the additional screening questions. Those are not two separate steps, just so we're clear, okay? So you have an ad, and then you'll go to an application, And then basically what'll happen is you'll have routing, which basically means however they answer the application, we'll either have them be qualified or unqualified. Okay, and basically for you, when you have your setup, you are only going to be firing the data back to the pixel from the qualified people, all right? And so that ultimately means that your ads will get smarter over time. So by having these questions in place, the platform begins to learn on the right types of people because you're not sending the data back to the platform from the avatars who are unqualified, okay? And so if you're absolutely like, just to go a little bit deeper into this, the way everything works is through cookies, okay? So basically your phone, your internet, your IP all has these device and kind of browser tracking, if you will. And so every individual person who's engaging on these platforms they can view them as an individual avatar. So that's why, again, firing the data back from only the people who have the right circumstances, the right problems, and the right motivation to work with you. That's why sending only those people back to the pixel is so important, because the platform will then go out and find more of those same types of buyers. So now that you know how to segment your traffic from the qualified individuals to the unqualified individuals, and ultimately only send back to the platform the qualified people, I want to share with you how this relates to a lot of other things that we continuously talk about on this channel, which have to do with messaging. So the third thing that we're going to cover is just a general note on targeting. Okay, so let's say that you have this local business right here, and you're targeting anywhere from, let's say, 5 to 10 miles, maybe more, maybe less. Just an example, 5 to 10 miles. So when you first launch your campaign, the targeting is going to work two different ways. Number one, it is going to stay in the radius. Okay, so you've set the radius of 5 or 10 miles, so it's going to stay within that radius. Now, the second thing that's going to happen is it's going to look at your messaging. Okay, so because it doesn't have any pixel data yet, when you launch a brand new campaign, it has no reported leads, reported website schedules, nothing, okay? So the campaign starts off by having to learn, all right? So it's gonna learn by radius and by messaging. And then when it gets a few conversions, then it's gonna transition to the pixel, okay? So it starts off by saying, okay, this person has a local brick and mortar physical therapy practice. And they're basically having a message that for some level of an offer to get patients in the door for these particular circumstances and problems that they're hoping to help patients with. So then they say, okay, in this radius, who is most likely to resonate with this message based on, again, their previous searches and what they're looking up, that kind of stuff, okay? It's extremely smart, all right? Then it'll get a few conversions. But once it gets a few conversions, it pretty much only defaults to the pixel, okay? This is the end all. And so what happens again is if you have the right radius and the right messaging, but just because of a stroke of bad luck, you have somebody that's not qualified opt in and hit the pixel, then you are in for possibly a ride of unprofitability with your advertising, okay? Because the pixel is going to then find more of the people that are unqualified. And so that's the whole lesson here, is that no matter what, when you run ads, your pixel is going to end up doing the majority of the work. So it's your responsibility to put in the applications and the specific questions, the strategic friction points, as we'll call them, that allow the buyer to be segmented from the looker. And so all this to say, if you get your pixel data right, so if this is the pixel data, and this is over here inaccurate all the way to accurate over here, and this is cache over here, okay? The more your pixel dials in terms of accuracy, okay, the more cash that you will be able to reap from your ads, okay? So you want 100% accuracy on the pixel in terms of finding qualified people. Now, we always like to wrap up with a little bit of action items on things you can do today to start making your ads even more profitable. So some quick action items for you. Number one is understand the pixel, okay? Consider it. flip your mindset. Really dial in on how important the pixel is for your particular campaign and protecting the data that goes into it, okay? The second thing is application questions. Okay, what are you going to use? What's important to you? Are we running a local business? Are we running a national offer? Do we need to do an avatar identifier? Do we need to do some level of an income qualifier if we need to? Do we have to put the price publicly? Do we have to put the symptoms out there? What do we need to do in the application in order to get people on the back end who are qualified for our service? Now, as a recommendation, I would start off with an application that's probably anywhere from 1 to 5 steps at max in terms of questions. And then if that's going well, you can always add more. But you don't want to add so much friction that your lead cost just goes through the roof, but you want to add enough that's likely to improve the pixel that you're currently using in your business. Okay, and then the third thing is once you have your pixel data dialed in through the application, then you can scale. Because what will happen is, again, you'll have your pixel, as we talked about, and the more accurate it is, the more cash you reap. So the biggest thing is, in terms of the tactical idea, is just putting in an application before the opt-in to make sure that you're segmenting the leads. That's the biggest thing for today, guys. So if you found this video valuable, we spend a lot of time working inside of clinics, helping them perfect these processes to ultimately just get a better outcome with their paid advertising. So if you found this video helpful, hit like, hit subscribe. We will be putting out a couple of these a week just in terms of sharing the lessons and best practices with you. So again, if you want to follow along, you can make sure that you stay ahead when you're trying to grow your business with paid advertising. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. You know, I know these ideas that we share too can sometimes be like a lot to consider, especially when you're running your own business out there. So if you ever want to have a conversation at a little bit deeper level with myself or our team, we'll always leave a link in the description to have a short discussion with us. There's a couple different ways that we can help you in your business depending on where you're at. So take a look at the description, possibly book a call with us if you feel that might be appropriate. But no matter what, make sure you go and take action on these items so that you can better improve your pixel and ultimately just get more qualified buyers into your business. We'll see you in the next one.